The scanner beeped 3 times before Ji-hoon noticed it. He was busy welding a broken panel on the salvaged ship's exterior when the sound cut through his helmet speakers. 3 beeps meant something unusual, something his scanner had never seen before. Ji-hoon pulled himself back inside through the airlock and floated to his workstation. The small salvage vessel, called the Morning Star, was home to 5 crew members who made their living picking apart old ships in the Kepler expanse. Most people called this region of space the graveyard. Hundreds of ships from humanity's first attempts at colonization drifted here, forgotten and abandoned. The scanner showed a massive object hiding in an asteroid field about 20 kilometers away. Ji-hoon's hands moved quickly across the controls, trying to get more information. The object was big, much bigger than the usual wrecks they found. His heart started beating faster. "Captain Daejin, you should see this," Ji-hoon called over the ship's communication system. Captain Daejin floated into the control room a minute later. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been salvaging ships for 30 years and had seen everything the graveyard had to offer, or so he thought. "What is it, Ji-hoon? Another broken cargo hauler?" "No, sir, it's something else. Something much larger." Daejin looked at the scanner readings and his eyes went wide. He grabbed the controls and started running deeper scans. The rest of the crew gathered behind them. Minho, the pilot, whistled softly when he saw the readings. "That's a colony ship," Minho said. "A big one." Colony ships were rare finds. Most had been destroyed or dismantled centuries ago. The ones that vanished in the graveyard were usually damaged beyond recognition. But this one looked different on the scans. It looked almost intact. "Let's go take a look," Captain Daejin ordered. The Morning Star moved slowly through the asteroid field. Ji-hoon pressed his face against the viewing window, trying to catch the first glimpse. When they finally cleared the last asteroid, everyone on the bridge fell silent. The ship was enormous. It stretched nearly a kilometer long, its white and silver hull reflecting the distant star's light. The design was old, from the 2250s, but the ship looked almost new. No major damage, no signs of weapons fire, nothing that explained why it was here. "I don't believe it," Captain Daejin whispered. "That's a Taeguk-class colony ship. They stopped making those over 200 years ago." Ji-hoon was already searching the computer database. His fingers flew across the keyboard until he found what he was looking for. The Taegukam. It vanished in 2251 with 2,400 people on board. They were heading to a new colony world but never arrived. Everyone assumed it was destroyed. "Well, it's not destroyed," Minho said. "But where is everyone?" That was the question that made Ji-hoon's skin crawl. The ship had power according to their scans. Life support was minimal but functional. Yet there were no life signs, no distress signals, nothing. They docked with the Taegukam 2 hours later. Ji-hoon was the first one through the airlock, his helmet light cutting through the darkness. The interior was cold but not frozen. The air was breathable according to his suit's readings, though stale after 2 centuries. The main corridor looked like everyone had just stepped out for a moment. Personal photos hung on the walls in small frames. A child's toy floated past Ji-hoon's helmet, bumping gently against him before drifting away. He caught it carefully. It was a small stuffed bear, worn from being held many times. "This is strange," Captain Daejin said through the radio. "Where are the bodies? If something killed them, there should be bodies." They split up to explore different sections. Ji-hoon went to the engineering bay, his specialty. The room was massive, filled with equipment that looked far too advanced for a ship from 2251. He recognized some of it, but other machines were completely unknown to him. In the center of the engineering bay sat a large quantum drive core. Ji-hoon had worked on quantum drives before, but they were new technology, invented only 30 years ago. How did a ship from 2251 have one? He moved closer and ran his scanner over the drive. The readings made no sense. This wasn't just a quantum drive. It was something else. Something that used quantum technology as a foundation, but did far more. Strange energy signatures pulsed through it in patterns he had never seen. "Captain, you need to see this," Ji-hoon called. Captain Daejin arrived 10 minutes later with Minho. They both stared at the quantum drive in confusion. "That's impossible," Minho said. "We didn't have this technology 200 years ago." "Someone built it anyway," Ji-hoon replied. He moved to a computer terminal nearby and tried to access it. The screen flickered to life, showing files and data streams. The ship's AI core is still active. It's in some kind of deep sleep mode. Captain Daejin put his hand on Ji-hoon's shoulder. "Listen, kid, this ship is worth more than everything we've ever salvaged combined. Just the quantum drive alone could buy us all a retirement. We strip it down and sell the parts." Ji-hoon turned to look at his captain. "Sir, don't you want to know what happened here? 2,400 people vanished. This ship has technology it shouldn't have. Something important happened. What happened is none of our business. Our business is salvage." But Ji-hoon couldn't stop thinking about the stuffed bear, about the photos on the walls, about the coffee cup he had seen floating in the crew quarters with someone's name written on it. These were people. They deserved to have their story told. "Give me 3 months," Ji-hoon said suddenly. "Let me restore the ship's main systems and access the logs. If I can't find anything valuable in 3 months, we'll strip it down. I'll pay the crew wages out of my own savings." Captain Daejin studied Ji-hoon's face for a long moment. The young engineer was 28 years old and had more passion for old ships than anyone Daejin had ever met. It was that passion that made him good at his job, but it was also what made him poor. Ji-hoon spent all his money on books and data files about historical ships. 3 months, Captain Daejin finally agreed. "But if you don't find something worth our time, we sell everything." Ji-hoon nodded and immediately got to work. He spent the rest of that day mapping the ship's systems, identifying what needed repair and what still functioned. The more he explored, the more questions he had. That night, sleeping in his small cabin on the Morning Star, Ji-hoon dreamed of the Taegukam. In his dream, the corridors were filled with people. They were laughing and talking, going about their daily lives. But when they saw him, they all stopped and turned to look. Their faces were sad, filled with a deep sorrow that made Ji-hoon's chest hurt. One woman stepped forward from the crowd. She had kind eyes and wore a captain's uniform. "Find the truth," she said. "Tell them what we did." Ji-hoon woke up gasping. He checked the time. It was 3 in the morning. He knew he wouldn't be able to sleep anymore, so he got dressed and returned to the Taegukam. The ship waited in the darkness, keeping its secrets. But Ji-hoon was determined to uncover them all. 3 weeks passed like a dream. Ji-hoon barely slept, spending 18 hours each day inside the Taegukam. He restored power conduits, repaired damaged circuits, and slowly brought the massive ship back to life. Each system he fixed revealed more mysteries. The weapons bay was his first major discovery. Colony ships were not supposed to have weapons beyond basic defense turrets. The Taegukam had military-grade plasma cannons, shield generators that could protect a battleship, and missile systems with warheads designed to crack open asteroids. This was not just a colony ship. It was a warship disguised as one. Minho helped him sometimes, though the pilot spent most of his time complaining. "We could be selling this stuff instead of fixing it," he said while helping Ji-hoon replace a power relay. "We will sell it," Ji-hoon replied, though he knew he was lying. He had no intention of letting this ship be torn apart. "I just need to understand it first." Minho laughed. "You're a terrible liar, Ji-hoon. You're going to try to keep this ship, aren't you?" Ji-hoon didn't answer. He focused on his work, connecting the last power relay to the main grid. Lights flickered on throughout the corridor, bright and sudden after centuries of darkness. Both men shielded their eyes until they adjusted. "Well, at least we can see now," Minho admitted. On the 40th day, Ji-hoon reached the AI core. It sat in a protected chamber deep inside the ship, surrounded by cooling systems and data banks. The core itself was a sphere of crystalline material about 2 meters wide, pulsing with faint blue light. Ji-hoon had worked on AI systems before, but nothing this advanced. He spent 2 full days studying the AI's architecture before attempting to wake it. When he finally pressed the activation sequence, nothing happened for almost a minute. Then the blue light grew brighter and a voice filled the chamber. "Primary systems online. Running diagnostic. Identifying user." The voice was calm and neutral, neither male nor female. A holographic interface appeared in front of Ji-hoon, showing streams of data moving too fast to read. "Diagnostic complete. Critical memory damage detected. Operating at 42% capacity. User identified as human. Designation unknown. Please state your authorization code." "I don't have an authorization code," Ji-hoon said carefully. "My name is Jae-hoon. I'm a salvage engineer. I found this ship drifting in the Kepler expanse." The AI was silent for several seconds. The holographic display flickered and changed, showing what looked like damaged files trying to repair themselves. "Designation accepted. I am Guardian, AI core of the vessel Taegukam. Last recorded date was March 15th, 2251. Please confirm current date." "It's September 3rd, 2487, Ji-hoon said softly. Another long silence. When Guardian spoke again, something in its voice had changed. It sounded almost sad. 236 years. I have been dormant for 236 years. "Can you tell me what happened to the crew?" Ji-hoon asked. "Where did they go?" "Memory banks damaged. Mission parameters classified. I cannot answer that question without proper authorization." Ji-hoon felt frustration building. 2,400 people vanished from this ship. I need to know what happened. I understand your desire for information. However, my core programming prevents disclosure without authorization. I can tell you that the Taegukam was on a classified military mission. The crew consisted of military personnel, scientists, and engineers. The mission was designated First Contact Protocol 7. First Contact. Ji-hoon's breath caught. Humanity had never made contact with alien life. Every exploration of the galaxy had found ruins of extinct civilizations, but never living aliens. If the Taegukam had been sent to make first contact, why was it classified? Why was it hidden? "Where were you going?" Ji-hoon asked. "Destination was Kepler 442 system. Coordinates classified. Mission objective was investigation and retrieval." "Retrieval of what?" "Information classified." Ji-hoon wanted to throw something. Instead, he took a deep breath and changed his approach. "Guardian, can you help me restore the rest of the ship's systems? I promise I'll try to find someone with proper authorization to unlock your memories." "That would be acceptable. I am designed to assist with ship operations and maintenance." Over the next month, Ji-hoon and Guardian worked together to bring more systems online. The AI's knowledge of the ship was incredible, even with its damaged memory. It guided Ji-hoon through complex repairs that would have taken him years to figure out alone. But strange things started happening. Ji-hoon would hear footsteps in empty corridors. Doors would open and close by themselves. Once he saw a shadow move past a doorway, but when he investigated, nothing was there. He told himself it was just the ship's systems coming back online, creating random noises and movements. Then he found the medical bay. The room was enormous, filled with hundreds of cryopods arranged in neat rows. Ji-hoon walked between them, his footsteps echoing. Each pod was empty, its door hanging open, except for one. At the far end of the medical bay, a single cryopod was sealed. Ji-hoon approached it slowly. The pod's display screen showed it was active, running on minimal power. He wiped frost from the viewing window and looked inside. The pod was empty, but according to the display, someone was inside it. The life sign monitors showed a heartbeat, breathing, brain activity. All the signs of a living person, but the pod contained nothing but air. "Guardian," Ji-hoon said into his radio. "I'm in the medical bay. Why does this cryopod show life signs when there's nothing inside?" Guardian's response was delayed longer than usual. "Anomaly detected. Cannot explain. Recommend sealing medical bay and avoiding that section." That night, Captain Daejin called a meeting on the Morning Star. All 5 crew members gathered in the small common area. The captain looked tired and angry. "Ji-hoon, it's been 60 days. What have you found?" Ji-hoon explained everything. The weapon systems, the military mission, the AI, the classification. The other crew members listened with growing interest. "So this ship was part of a secret first contact mission," said one of the crew members. "A woman named Sora who handled communications. That means the technology here is priceless. Governments would pay billions for this." "That's what I'm saying," Captain Daejin agreed. "We need to sell this now before someone else finds it." "No," Ji-hoon said firmly. "Something important happened here. The crew didn't just disappear. They went somewhere or did something. We need to find out what before we make any decisions." Minho, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "I agree with Ji-hoon. This is bigger than money. What if the crew discovered something that could help humanity? What if they found aliens or some kind of threat? We can't just sell this without knowing." Captain Daejin rubbed his face with both hands. "You're asking me to wait longer based on ghosts and mysteries. I have a crew to pay." "Give me 30 more days," Ji-hoon pleaded. "I'm close to accessing the captain's logs. Once I read those, we'll know everything." The captain looked around at his crew. Sora nodded. Minho nodded. The other 2 crew members looked uncertain but didn't object. 30 days, Captain Daejin said. "That's all. Then we sell." Ji-hoon returned to the Taegukam that night with new determination. He had to find the captain's logs. He had to understand what happened. Guardian helped him search through the ship's databanks, looking for any reference to the command logs. They found them a week later, sealed behind multiple layers of encryption and security protocols. The file was labeled Captain Hana Lee, Final Mission Report, Command Override Required. "I need the captain's authorization code to open this," Guardian explained. "Without it, the file will remain sealed." Ji-hoon stared at the file name on his screen. Captain Hana Lee. He had seen that name in historical records. She was a legend in the early days of space exploration, known for her courage and dedication. She had vanished with the Taegukam and was presumed dead. "There has to be a way," Ji-hoon muttered. He spent the next 2 weeks searching the ship, looking for anything that might give him access to the captain's logs. He searched her quarters, her office, every place she might have left a clue. He found it in the strangest place. In the ship's garden, now dead and dry after centuries, there was a small plaque. It had a quote engraved on it in Korean. "The stars remember those who dare." Below the quote were numbers, 031580. Ji-hoon's hands shook as he entered the numbers into the authorization system. The screen flashed green. Access granted. "File unlocking," Guardian said. "Warning. This file contains classified information designated for command personnel only. Are you certain you wish to proceed?" Ji-hoon thought about the stuffed bear, about the photos on the walls, about Captain Hana Lee's dream message. These people deserved to have their story known. "Yes," he said. "Open the file." The file opened slowly, as if the ship itself was reluctant to reveal its secrets. Text appeared on Ji-hoon's screen, written in the clear, precise style of a military report. But as he began reading, he realized this was much more than a report. It was a confession. Captain's log, Hana Lee, January 5th, 2251. We received orders today that will change everything. Command has detected something near Kepler 442, something that isn't human. After 200 years of space exploration, we finally have proof that we're not alone in the universe. Ji-hoon's heart pounded. He read faster, his eyes racing across the words. They're calling it a derelict, a ship massive beyond anything we've built, floating dead in space. It's old, Command says. Millions of years old. They want us to investigate. The Taegukum was chosen because we're already classified as a military vessel. Our colonist manifest is fake. Everyone on board is military, science, or engineering. We're humanity's best, sent to discover what the aliens left behind. The next entries detailed the journey to Kepler 442. Captain Hana wrote about the excitement and fear her crew felt. They were making history, but they were also terrified of what they might find. Some crew members believed the aliens might still be alive. Others worried the ship might be a trap. February 12th, 2251, we found it. The alien vessel is beyond description. It's 10 kilometers long, made of a material we can't identify. There's no damage, no signs of battle. It's just sitting here, waiting. Our sensors can barely read it. Whatever technology they used is so advanced that our equipment doesn't know what to look for. Ji-hoon paused and looked around the empty engineering bay. He was alone, but he felt like someone was watching him. Guardian's blue light pulsed steadily in the background. He returned to reading. February 20th, 2251. We sent teams inside. The alien ship is empty, but it's not dead. Lights turn on when we enter rooms. Doors open for us. It's like the ship is alive, waiting for someone to use it. My science team is calling the aliens the precursors. They built this ship so long ago that their civilization was probably gone before humans even existed. February 28th, 2251. We found their data core. It took our computers 3 days to understand even the basics of their language. It's mathematical, based on universal constants, beautiful and terrifying. When we finally decoded the first message, everyone on my bridge went silent. Ji-hoon leaned closer to the screen. His hands were sweating. The message was a warning. The precursors left it for whoever found their ships. They built these vessels and scattered them across the galaxy as markers, hoping some younger species would find them and understand. The warning is simple. Grow carefully, advance slowly, because once you reach a certain level of technology, once you spread far enough into space, you attract their attention. March 1st, 2251. We've translated more of the message. The precursors called them the harvesters. They're not from our dimension. They exist in a space beside ours, watching and waiting. When a species becomes advanced enough, the harvesters notice. They cross over and they consume everything. Civilizations, planets, entire star systems. The precursors watched it happen to dozens of species. They tried to fight. They failed. Ji-hoon felt cold. He wanted to stop reading, but he couldn't. The precursors spent their last centuries building a network of seeded worlds, trying to give younger species a chance. They left technology, information, and warnings. But they also left something else. They left weapons. March 5th, 2251. We found the weapon. It's not like human weapons. It doesn't shoot or explode. The precursors built something that exists partially in the same space as the harvesters. A weapon that can reach across dimensions and hurt them. According to the data, it's the only thing that ever worked against the harvesters. But there's a cost. There's always a cost. The next entry was dated 5 days later. Ji-hoon noticed that Captain Hana's writing style had changed. It was more personal, more emotional. March 10th, 2251. I've spent 5 days studying the weapon's requirements. I've consulted with every scientist on this ship. I've prayed to gods I'm not sure I believe in. The conclusion is always the same. The weapon requires biological calibration. It needs living minds, sentient consciousness, to function as a targeting system. The precursors used their own people to activate it. Thousands of them uploaded their consciousness into the weapon, becoming part of it. They gave up their bodies, their lives, everything, and it still wasn't enough. The harvesters killed them anyway. March 11, 2251. I sent a message to command. I told them everything. I asked for orders. Their response arrived today. They said the decision is mine. They can't order me to do what I'm thinking. No one can order something like this. Ji-hoon realized his vision was blurry. He was crying without knowing when he had started. March 12, 2251. I called a meeting of the senior staff. I showed them everything. The precursor warning, the data about the harvesters, the weapon specifications. I told them about the calibration requirements. I told them that if we bring this weapon back to Earth, we risk leading the harvesters straight to our home. But if we leave it here, humanity will face the harvesters defenseless in a few centuries. There's a third option. We could activate the weapon now. We could integrate it with the Taegukam systems. The precursor technology is advanced enough to merge with our ship. Once activated, the weapon would be ready, hidden, waiting for the day humanity needs it. But activation requires minds. Living, human minds. The senior staff voted. They said I should tell everyone and let the crew decide. So that's what I did. March 13, 2251. I announced it to the entire crew this morning. 2,400 people gathered in the main assembly hall. I stood on the stage and told them everything. I explained the harvesters, the weapon, and the choice. I said that anyone who wanted to leave could take the escape pods. We were close enough to known space that they would be found within a few months. I expected panic. I expected people to run. Instead, they sat quietly and listened. When I finished, they asked questions. Good questions, smart questions. These are the best humanity has to offer, and it showed. March 14, 2251. The crew voted today, every single person. I gave them 24 hours to decide. The vote was unanimous. All 2,400 people voted to activate the weapon. Not one person chose to leave. They said if there was even a small chance this could save humanity in the future, it was worth it. They said they were honored to be part of something so important. I am so proud of them. I am so heartbroken for them. They're giving up everything based on a warning from aliens who died millions of years ago. But they're right. If we don't do this, who will? If we run away now, we doom every human who will ever live. The final entry was dated March 15, 2251. Ji-hoon had to stop several times while reading it because he couldn't see through his tears. Captain's log, Hana Lee, March 15, 2251. Final entry. In 6 hours, we will begin the activation sequence. The precursor weapon will merge with the Taegukam. Our consciousness, our minds, our very souls will become part of the targeting system. We will exist in a state between dimensions, watching and waiting for the harvesters. I've said goodbye to each crew member personally. It took 3 days. Many of them cried. Many of them hugged me. All of them thanked me for giving them this choice. They're wrong. I should be thanking them. To whoever finds this ship, we did this willingly. We did this proudly. We are humanity's shield, even though humanity doesn't know we exist. When the harvesters come, and they will come, this weapon will be ready. Use it well. Make our sacrifice mean something. We are the crew of the Taegukam. We are humanity's forgotten guardians, and we are not afraid. Captain Hana Lee, signing off. Ji-hoon sat in silence for a long time after finishing the log. Around him, the Taegukam felt different somehow. The shadows seemed less empty. The quiet seemed less lonely. 2,400 people had given up their lives to protect a future they would never see. Guardian, Ji-hoon said quietly, are they still here? Is the crew still part of the ship? Guardian's response came after a long pause. Yes, the weapon is active. The consciousness patterns of 2,400 humans are integrated into this vessel's core systems. They are dormant now, waiting, but they are here. Ji-hoon stood up on shaking legs. He walked to the center of the engineering bay and looked around at the advanced technology, the systems that shouldn't exist. All of it was powered by the greatest sacrifice humans had ever made. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the empty room. "I'm sorry it took so long for someone to find you. I'm sorry you had to wait alone for 200 years. The lights flickered once, as if in response. Ji-hoon knew it was probably just a power fluctuation, but he wanted to believe it was them, acknowledging him, letting him know they heard. Ji-hoon didn't leave the Taegukam for 2 days. He read every file he could access, trying to understand what Captain Hana and her crew had done. Guardian helped him, unlocking more databases now that the command authorization was active. Each new piece of information made the truth heavier. The weapon itself was difficult to understand. The precursors had built it using principles that human science barely recognized. It existed in multiple dimensions at once, reaching into the same space where the harvesters lived. The weapon could detect them, track them, and destroy them, but only if it was properly calibrated with living consciousness. "Guardian, explain the activation process to me," Ji-hoon said. He was sitting in the command chair on the bridge, surrounded by screens showing technical data. "The process requires volunteers to undergo neural mapping. Their brain patterns, memories, and consciousness are copied into the weapon's core system. The physical body remains alive during the process, but enters a state similar to brain death. After mapping is complete, the body is released from its biological functions." "They died," Ji-hoon said flatly. "In a manner of speaking, their consciousness continues to exist within the weapon system. They can think, feel, and communicate with each other. They are aware, but they have no physical form." Ji-hoon found the medical logs next. Dr. Tae-jin had documented the entire process. He had been Captain Hana's chief medical officer, responsible for monitoring each crew member during the activation. His notes were clinical at first, full of medical terminology and precise measurements. But as the logs continued, his writing became more emotional. Day 1 of activation. We processed 200 crew members today. Each one climbed onto the neural mapping table willingly. Some were scared, most were calm, all of them were brave. I held their hands during the process. It takes about 10 minutes. They stay awake the whole time. I watched their eyes as their consciousness was copied and uploaded. I watched the light fade from them. I've never felt more like a murderer in my life. Day 2. Another 200 processed. Lieutenant Keong told me a joke right before his turn. He said, "At least I'll never have to worry about getting old now." We both laughed. Then he climbed onto the table and I watched him die while his consciousness joined the weapon. I don't think I'll ever laugh again. Day 3. Captain Hana spent all day with the crew, talking to each person before their turn. She knows every single name. She remembers details about their families, their dreams, their favorite foods. She's trying to carry all of them with her. I don't know how she's staying strong. The logs continued for 12 days. Dr. Tae-jin documented every activation, every death. He wrote about the crew members who sang songs before their turn, about the ones who cried, about the ones who stayed silent. He wrote about the married couples who held hands and went through the process together. He wrote about the young engineer who was only 19 years old and told jokes to keep everyone's spirits up. On the final day, only Captain Hana and Dr. Tae-jin remained. The doctor's last entry was short. "It's just the 2 of us now. Hana will go first. She says a captain should never send crew where she won't go herself. After she's done, I'll activate the automated system for my own upload. Then the Taegukam will be complete. 2,400 minds forming the greatest weapon humanity has ever created. I hope we never have to use it. I hope the harvesters never come. But if they do, we'll be ready. Goodbye." Ji-hoon closed the file and buried his face in his hands. He had read stories about war, about soldiers who sacrificed themselves for their countries. But this was different. These people hadn't died fighting. They had died preparing for a fight that might never come. They had given up everything based on a warning from aliens who died millions of years ago. "Guardian, are you part of the weapon too?" Ji-hun asked. "No. I am the ship's AI, separate from the weapon system, but I am connected to it. I can communicate with the consciousness patterns if needed." "Can I talk to them? Can I talk to Captain Hana?" "That would be possible. However, I must warn you that interaction with living humans is difficult for them. They exist in a different state now. Time moves differently for them. What feels like minutes to you might feel like days to them. Contact should be brief and necessary." Ji-hun stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, stars gleamed against the darkness. Somewhere out there, the harvesters existed, waiting in their dimension. And humanity had no idea. "What am I supposed to do with this information?" Ji-hun asked. He wasn't sure if he was talking to Guardian or himself. Captain Hana's orders were clear. The Taegukam must be brought to humanity's core worlds when it is found. The weapon must be ready for deployment when the harvesters arrive. But how do I convince anyone this is real? How do I explain that 2,400 people turned themselves into a weapon to fight monsters from another dimension? They'll think I'm crazy. You have the logs. You have the precursor data. You have me to verify everything. The evidence is substantial. Ji-hun returned to the Morning Star that evening. His crew was eating dinner together in the common area. They looked up when he entered. Captain Daejin immediately noticed something was wrong. "Ji-hun, you look terrible. What happened?" Ji-hun sat down heavily. For several minutes he couldn't speak. Finally he started talking. He told them everything. The precursors, the harvesters, the weapon, the sacrifice. He told them about Captain Hana and Dr. Taejin and the 19-year-old engineer. He told them about the 12 days of activation and the 2,400 people who volunteered to die. When he finished, the room was silent. Minho had tears running down his face. Sora looked shocked. Captain Daejin stared at his hands. "That's impossible," one crew member finally said. "Aliens? Dimension-hopping monsters? It sounds like a bad science fiction story." "I have the logs," Ji-hun said. "I have the precursor data translated into our language. I have Guardian to verify it all. It's real." Captain Daejin stood up and walked to the viewport. He looked out at the Taegukam floating peacefully in the darkness. "If this is true, then we can't sell this ship. We can't strip it for parts. This is the most important discovery in human history. We have to bring it to New Seoul," Ji-hun said. New Seoul was the capital world of human space, where the government was located. "We have to tell them what's coming." "What if they don't believe us?" Sora asked. "What if they think we're making it up to keep the ship?" "Then they'll examine the evidence. They'll verify everything. They have to believe us because it's true." Minho wiped his eyes. "Those people gave up everything to protect us. We owe it to them to finish what they started." Captain Daejin nodded slowly. "All right, we'll do it. But Ji-hun, you realize what this means? If the harvesters are real and they're coming, humanity needs to prepare for war. Your discovery won't just change history, it might start a panic." "I know," Ji-hun said. But Captain Hana and her crew didn't run away. They faced the truth even when it was terrifying. We have to do the same. That night, Ji-hun returned to the Taegukam one more time. He stood in the command center and spoke to the empty air. "Guardian, I want to speak with Captain Hana, just for a moment." The lights dimmed. A holographic image formed in front of Ji-hun. It was a woman in a captain's uniform, her face kind and sad at the same time. It was Captain Hana. "Hello," she said. Her voice sounded distant, like an echo from far away. "You found us." "Yes," Ji-hun said. "I read your logs. I know what you did. I'm going to take the Taigukum to New Seoul. I'm going to tell everyone. Captain Hana smiled. Thank you. We've been waiting so long. Sometimes I forget what it was like to have a body, to breathe, to touch things. But we stay vigilant. We watch the boundaries. And we wait. Are the harvesters coming? Her smile faded. Yes. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. We can feel them at the edge of our awareness. They're beginning to notice humanity. Your species has spread far in 200 years. Too far, too fast. They're coming. Ji-hoon felt ice in his stomach. How long do we have? Guardian will explain, but Ji-hoon, I need you to promise me something. Tell humanity what we did. Tell them we made this choice willingly. Tell them not to be afraid. We're here. We're ready. And we'll protect them. I promise, Ji-hoon said. Captain Hana's image flickered. I'm tired. Being here, talking like this, it takes so much energy. Thank you for finding us. Thank you for caring enough to understand. The hologram faded. Ji-hoon stood alone in the command center, feeling the weight of 2,400 lives pressing down on him. The next morning, Ji-hoon called another meeting. This time, he brought Guardian online through a portable terminal so the AI could answer questions directly. Captain Daejin and the crew listened as Guardian explained the Harvester threat in detail. The Harvesters exist in a parallel dimensional space. They are drawn to complex energy signatures produced by advanced civilizations. Once they detect a species, they begin the crossing process. It can take decades or centuries, but they are patient. When they fully cross over, they consume all biological life and technology in the target system before moving to the next. How do we know they're coming for us? Sora asked. Long-range dimensional sensors on the Taigukum have detected unusual readings at the edge of explored space. Energy patterns consistent with Harvester incursion signatures. The precursor data allows us to identify these patterns. They are subtle now, but growing stronger. Based on the rate of increase, I estimate the Harvesters will begin their full crossing within 10 to 20 years. The room went quiet. 20 years seemed like a long time, but it wasn't. Humanity would need every day of that time to prepare. We need to leave immediately, Captain Daejin said. The government needs to know about this yesterday. Minho nodded. I can plot a course to New Seoul. It'll take us about 3 weeks with the Morning Star. But what about the Taigukum? Can it fly? All primary systems are operational, Guardian replied. The Taigukum is fully capable of interstellar flight. However, I recommend that Ji-hoon pilot the ship while the Morning Star provides escort. The Taigukum has been dormant for 2 centuries. It would be wise to have support vessels nearby. I'll do it, Ji-hoon said immediately. I'll pilot the Taigukum to New Seoul. Captain Daejin studied him. You understand what's going to happen when we arrive? The government will take the ship. They'll probably take you too for questioning. You might not see the Taigukum again. I know, but this is bigger than me. Captain Hana and her crew gave up their lives. The least I can do is make sure their sacrifice wasn't wasted. They spent the next week preparing for the journey. Ji-hoon moved his personal belongings to the Taigukum. He walked through every corridor, learning the ship, feeling its history. Sometimes he heard whispers that might have been voices or might have been his imagination. He chose to believe they were the crew, watching over him. On the morning they were scheduled to depart, something changed. Ji-hoon was on the bridge running final system checks when Guardian's voice suddenly became urgent. Alert! Dimensional sensors detecting significant increase in anomalous readings. Harvester incursion signatures have intensified by 300% in the past 6 hours. Ji-hoon's hands froze on the controls. What does that mean? It means they know. The Harvesters have detected humanity. The crossing has begun. Ji-hoon immediately contacted the Morning Star. Captain, we have a problem. The Harvesters know about us. They're coming. Captain Daejin's face appeared on the screen. His expression grim. How long? Guardian says 10 to 20 years until full crossing. Then we don't have time to waste. Fire up those engines and let's go. The Tegukum's main engines hadn't been used in 236 years. When Ji-hoon activated them, he half expected the ship to explode. Instead, they came to life smoothly, their quantum cores humming with power. Blue light flared from the engine nacelles, bright enough to be seen from hundreds of kilometers away. All systems green, Guardian reported. The Taegukam is ready for flight. Ji-hoon gripped the control sticks. The ship responded to his touch like it had been waiting for him. Maybe it had been. He guided the massive vessel out of the asteroid field, the Morning Star following close behind. As they cleared the last asteroid and entered open space, Ji-hoon felt something shift. It was like the air pressure changing, except it was happening inside his mind. Guardian noticed, too. The weapon system is responding to your presence. The consciousness patterns are becoming more active. What should I do? Nothing. They're acknowledging you as the pilot. They're saying hello. Ji-hoon felt tears on his face again. Hello, he whispered. Thank you for trusting me. The sensation faded, but didn't disappear entirely. For the rest of the flight, Ji-hoon felt a constant, gentle presence at the edge of his awareness. 2,400 people watching over him, protecting him, trusting him to finish their mission. The journey to New Seoul took 18 days. Ji-hoon used the time to organize all the data. He created detailed reports, compiled the logs, and prepared evidence that couldn't be disputed. Minho helped him practice the presentation. Sora recorded everything for posterity. On the final day before arrival, Captain Daejin called Ji-hoon over to the Morning Star for a private conversation. They sat in the captain's quarters, drinking coffee that tasted like rust. When we arrive, everything changes, Captain Daejin said. For you, for us, for everyone. Are you ready for that? No, Ji-hoon admitted. But Captain Hana wasn't ready either. She did it anyway. You've grown up these past few months. When I first met you, you were just a kid who liked old ships. Now you're the man who discovered humanity's greatest secret. I didn't discover it, I just found what was left behind. Captain Daejin smiled. That's exactly what explorers do. They find what others left behind and bring it forward. You're doing good work, Ji-hoon. Your parents would be proud. Ji-hoon hadn't thought about his parents in weeks. They had died in a mining accident when he was young. He had spent his whole life trying to make them proud, trying to be worthy of their sacrifice. Now he understood sacrifice on a scale he had never imagined. I hope so, he said quietly. New Seoul appeared on the scanners the next morning. It was a beautiful planet, green and blue with white clouds swirling across its surface. 3 billion people lived there, completely unaware that their entire species was in danger. Guardian, open a channel to planetary defense, Ji-hoon ordered. Channel open. Ji-hoon took a deep breath. New Seoul Defense Command. This is the salvage vessel Morning Star with escort vessel Taegukam. We are requesting emergency docking clearance and immediate contact with government military command. We have information regarding a threat to humanity. There was a long pause. Then a confused voice replied, Taegukam? That ship was lost over 200 years ago. I know. I found it. And you need to hear what it has to say. The next few hours were chaos. Military ships surrounded them. Ji-hoon was questioned over and over through video channels. Finally, he simply transmitted all the data at once. The logs, the precursor warnings, the weapon specifications, everything. The response was immediate. A fleet admiral appeared on the screen, her face pale. If this is real, if any of this is real, then we need to mobilize immediately. Bring that ship down to the capital. We're clearing a landing zone now. The Taegukam descended through New Seoul's atmosphere like a ghost returning from the dead. Crowds gathered to watch the massive ship settle onto the landing pad. News drones circled like hungry birds. Within hours, everyone on the planet knew the name Taegukam. Ji-hoon stood on the bridge one last time before government officials arrived to take control. He placed his hand on the control panel. "Guardian, tell them I kept my promise. Tell them their story will be remembered." "They know," Guardian said. "They're proud of you." When the officials arrived, Ji-hoon went with them willingly. He spent 3 days answering questions, showing evidence, explaining everything he knew. Scientists examined the ship. Military strategists studied the weapon. Historians read the logs and wept. On the 4th day, the government held a press conference. The admiral stood at a podium with Ji-hoon beside her. "Citizens of humanity," she began. "Today we learned that we are not alone in the universe. We also learned that we are in danger, but we learned something else too. We learned that 236 years ago, 2,400 brave people made the ultimate sacrifice to protect us. They gave up their lives, their futures, everything, so that we would have a chance to survive." The admiral turned to look at the Taegukam, visible through the window behind her. "The crew of the Taegukam are heroes. They will be remembered forever, and because of them, because of what they did, we have a chance. We have a weapon. We have time. We have hope." She looked directly at the camera. "The harvesters are coming, but they're going to learn something about humanity. We don't run, we don't hide, and we never give up. Captain Hana Lee and her crew showed us that. Now it's our turn to show the universe what humans are made of." That night, Ji-hoon stood outside looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the harvesters were crossing dimensions, moving toward human space. But somewhere out there, other ships like the Taegukam might be waiting too, other crews who made the same choice. His communicator buzzed. It was a message from Guardian. "Long-range sensors have detected a signal. Origin point is near Old Earth. The signal is in precursor language. Translation: we are here. We are awake. The network activates." Ji-hoon smiled. Captain Hana had been right. Humanity wasn't defenseless. They never had been. The war was coming, but humanity was ready. And somewhere in the quantum heart of the Taegukam, 2,400 souls stood watch, eternal guardians of the species they loved enough to die for.